Hello everyone and welcome back to Nathrandir's Guide to Everything, and welcome back to another top 10 magic items for a rogue video. This is part 2. Make sure you check out part 1 if you haven't already. There was basically just so many that I decided to make 2 top 10 lists rather than one massive top 20 thing. We're going to jump straight into it. Let's go. Now, rogues. As you probably know if you've played one, you're likely to be the person to pick locks and trigger traps. The necklace of Adaption covers you here a little bit. While wearing this necklace, you can breathe normally in any environment. You have advantage on saving throws made against harmful gases and vapors such as Cloud Kill, Stinking Cloud, inhaled poisons, and the breath weapon of some dragons. So it does have actually a lot of use outside of just meaning that gas traps can't affect you, but I thought this was a fun one and something I hadn't actually considered. But yeah, for those rogues that really like to risk it and not check for traps before they open a chest, this could be for you. Next up we have the Psi Crystal, and kind of going on the last point of the necklace as well. Rogues are often used as scouts with no way to communicate with their party unless you have some telepathic link going on already with another character perhaps, but I thought the Psi Crystal is a fantastic way of making that work for you should you need it. An uncommon item you can come across probably fairly easily if you have a little chat with the dungeon master, and essentially depending on your intelligence score, depends on how far your telepathy goes. So for a rogue, I imagine you'll have at least 12. The 12 to 15 gives you a 60-foot range, 16 or higher gives you a 120-foot range, which is really, really good. So if you're scouting ahead, you can communicate with the rest of your party. This particular item is found in Icewind Dale Rime of the Frost Maiden. Next up, we have the Eyes of the Eagle. Now, this is a bit of a wild card. Rogues are usually known for their investigative, that's really hard to say, investigative abilities, but often, as they are the scouts, as I mentioned before, a good perception wouldn't hurt. So while wearing these, you have advantage on perception checks that rely on sight. That means you can also see things way out in the distance. You could fully kind of embody this kind of scout character, as it were, but your main stats will be dex and intelligence. So this is a bit of a stretch, but I think it absolutely could come in use for some rogues. Honestly, this is actually a great item for anybody. Could go in the honorable mentions list really. Probably should have in hindsight, but we're here now. Next up we have an obvious one, the Cloak of Elvenkind. You're probably wondering where it was in the last one. While you wear this cloak with the hood up, perception checks made to see you have disadvantage, and you have advantage on stealth checks made to hide. You wouldn't need this if you have something further down the line like the Infiltrator's Key, which we mentioned in the last video, but this is an incredible item, fairly easy to come by, and a staple of Dungeons & Dragons. Everyone knows what the Cloak of Elvenkind does, right? Next up, I love this again for Scout Rogues. It seems to be the theme of these later items. The Gem of Seeing. As an action, you can speak the gem's command word, expend 1 charge. For the next 10 minutes, you have True Sight out to 120 feet when you peer through the gem. True Sight essentially means you can see anything. If we have a look at the little tooltip that's here, a monster with True Sight can see in normal and magical darkness, see invisible creatures and objects, automatically detect visual illusions and succeed on saving throws against them, perceive the original form of a shape changer that is transformed by magic. Furthermore, you can see into the ethereal plane within the same range. Basically, you'll never be surprised by anything if you have one of these. Scanning the room with this as a rogue and making investigation checks, you'll find everything that that room has to offer. I really like this as a flavor one as well. Gem of Seeing. Next up we have, honestly, this could again go in honorable mention, staple for any character. If you can get your hands on this, it's a game changer. The Boots of Speed. You can double your walking speed for 10 minutes, and opportunity attacks have disadvantage against you. Honestly, these are ridiculous. I feel like this should be just a higher rarity just for how good they are. They're only rare. They double your speed, like paired with a barbarian or anything like that that has an increased movement speed, or a monk. These could just be broken, to be honest with you. And on a rogue, they're super powerful because you rely on your movement to get you in and out of situations, especially if you're a melee rogue. Reposition if you're a ranged rogue. There are no downsides. These would be incredible. Now, this is a strange one. The Bag of Devouring. Essentially, it's a bag of holding, but if a creature reaches into the bag, there's a 50% chance they're pulled inside it. If they fail to get out on the following turn, the body is destroyed. It's an instant kill effect. This item is ridiculous. I would never use this against my player characters, I don't think, unless it was a joke towards the end of a campaign, or they knew it was coming, like they've seen this happen to somebody else. This would never feel good if a player character falls into this, essentially. But I thought of a fun use for it. If you're a rogue and you're an assassin, right? What do you do with the bodies? What do you do if you need to hide a body of someone important? You can just chuck them into the bag of the Devouring, and they'll just, like they never existed. There's nothing left. You can just loot them, chuck them in, and they're gone. It says a 50% chance, but you could just in and out until they disappear, right? In theory. Does that work? I feel like that works. This is a crazy magic item for covering up your tracks. If you're playing like a more evil rogue, I guess, you could try this. You could also just attack things with it. I don't know particularly how that would work, to be honest. I don't know if I'd allow it in my game. I feel like we'd have to be willing, but if someone's dead or asleep or something like that, they can't really argue, can they? So this is potentially a very powerful magical item for rogues wanting to instantly assassinate particular targets. Yeah, the Bag of Devouring. Next up, again, living that assassin power fantasy, the 9 Life Stealer. Really, really cool looking weapon, as you can see from the art here. It's a +2 to attack and damage rolls made with this magic weapon. It has 1d8 + 1 charges. The fun bit, if you score a crit and that creature has fewer than 100 hit points, it must succeed in a con save 15 or be slain instantly as the sword tears its life force from the body. Constructs and undead are immune. It loses a charge if a creature is slain in this way. When the sword has no charges, it loses that property, but it's still a +2 sword, so it's still good. But if you manage to find this, a rapier with this effect, again, it seems to just be an assassin theme for this one. Scout at the start, assassin now. This is just crazy. This is a power word kill in a sword, but you can't control it. But if you're giving yourself advantage on every single sneak attack that you get, which you should be as a rogue, you have a 10% chance to get a crit when you attack with this weapon, which isn't bad. Not bad at all. And you can just instantly kill something that's under 100 hit points. This is crazy. You do that, chuck them into the Bag of Devouring, you're away. Like nothing ever happened. No screams from anything with fewer than 100 hit points if you get a crit with this weapon. Really, really fun and very roguelike, I think. The 9 Life Stealer. Next up, we have another tattoo. We had the Ghost Step in the last video, Blood Fury in this one. Now, this one's a little bit more aggressive. Again, found in Tasha's Cauldron of Everything. You have 10 charges on this tattoo. It regains all of those at dawn. When you hit a creature with a weapon attack, you can expend a charge, deal an extra 4d6 necrotic damage to the target. You regain a number of hit points equal to the necrotic damage dealt. Now, hit points tend to be a problem with rogues. The idea is, I guess, you don't get hit. You have evasion and things like that and uncanny dodge. But when you do get hit, there's oftentimes you'll need to get those hit points back. And this is a way to do that. Expend 1 charge, you get 4d6 health back, essentially, if you hit something. Crazy powerful, really, really useful for a rogue and very, very good. Additionally, it gives you something to do with your reaction. When a creature you can see damages you, you can expend a charge and make a melee attack as a reaction with advantage on your attack roll. Now, you can only benefit from sneak attack once per turn. So if by chance you didn't get it on your turn, you could, in theory, get it with this. I think. Let me do a rule check. I can confirm. You can sneak attack once on your turn, and then at the end of your turn, that resets. So if something attacks you on their turn, you can sneak attack them again. Ridiculous. Very, very powerful. Maybe too powerful. Here you go. Top 10 magic items for a rogue. Blood Fury Tattoo. Finally, we have Danoth's Visor, another one from Explorer's Guide to Wildmount. Now this, again, is for a more like scout-like rogue. Our last few items have been assassin-based. This is more scout. That's what it's useful for. While wearing the goggles in their dormant state, you can see normally in darkness, incredible, both magical and non-magical to a distance of 60 feet. That's a very powerful effect built in just there. That's why it's legendary, I guess. Additionally, you have advantage on investigation and perception checks that rely on sight. So it's a few of the items we've talked about built into one already in its dormant state. Now when it becomes awakened, it starts to get a little bit silly. We gain almost true sight, I guess you could say. We can see invisible creatures within 60 feet. Additionally, we can see into the ethereal plane all the time. As a bonus action, we can speak the command words and use the goggles to see through solid matter. This vision has a radius of 60 feet and lasts for a minute. To you, solid objects within that radius appear transparent, and the vision can penetrate 1 foot of stone, 1 inch of metal, 3 feet of wood or dirt. Thicker substances block the vision, as does lead, so you couldn't in theory maybe see into the rarest of magical artifact boxes that they're stored in. But this is still very powerful. You can see through walls, you can see what's coming, so as a scout, you'll like never be surprised, essentially. It only lasts for a minute and can be used once a day, but still incredibly powerful if you really want to know what's in a room and prepare well, fulfilling your scout role perfectly. Additionally, you have a command word to switch the goggles to a spyglass mode. While in this, creatures and objects viewed through the goggles are magnified to twice their size. Speaking the command word reverts the goggles to their normal operation. So essentially you get like a telescope, essentially. Finally, Exalted, and this is where we essentially get true sight for good. You automatically detect illusions you can see and automatically succeed on saving throws against them. In addition, you see a bright aura around any creature that isn't in its true form, so true sight. As an action, we can cast the anti-magic field spell from the Visor once a day. Pretty silly. Now, but this is why I mentioned the item from a while back. It was the Gem of Seeing. This is much more attainable than Danoth's Visor, and this gives you true sight. So all of those benefits you can get in a rare item instead. This just does a few extra things which make it kind of excel, I guess. But Anti-Magic Field is no joke. That is an 8th level spell that you can cast from this item. Ridiculous. So if you're worried about magical traps, gone. Cast this, you're safe to lockpick that door to your heart's content with your Infiltrator's Key. God forbid you have 2 vestiges of divergence. That would be ridiculous. But with that, that brings us to the end of the second top 10. I've already done the honorable mentions in the other video. If you enjoyed this, please do check out part 1. Like, comment, subscribe if you enjoyed this content. This has been Nathrandir's Guide to Everything, and I'll see you all in the next one. Bye-bye.